Hey, what's good? It's another Sunday. It's the Shaker Heights. Experiences may vary. With your hosts, Eric Green and Gabe Hughes Truly. Broadcasting live from the Linfield Rapid Stop. The air conditioner is not working in my mind. So, up next, we have a Class 84 design major. Fire plug of a man. He'll tell
Thespian. Thespian.
Yes, thespian. I'd like to introduce to everybody the one and only Jimmy Moss. Come to the stage. We'll switch you over. There we go. Jimmy, welcome. Welcome to the Shaker Heights.
We're good to be here.
Vary. Yes. Did we do the do we do the Newman commercial now or yeah?
I'll wait till the end. You want to do it now?
Wait till the end.
Wait till the end. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait till the end. We do our Paul Newman's own pizza commercial.
Yes, you do.
And we also have Knockbox. But we'll do that. Yes. This will be an impromptu commercial. Knockbox helps you organize for that day, when that day comes when you ascend, in terms of organizing all your personal papers and information for your next of kin. Because oftentimes there is more drama when the affairs are not in order.
Got it.
And it becomes a bigger headache. So Knockbox solves all that, where they're easy to follow checklists and organization of their boxes, and you can customize their boxes. And they'll have a discount for folks who subscribe to the Shaker Heights. I think there's like a 10% or something like that discount. More details later. We'll post those things up. But right now,
stay tuned for more information on that.
Yes. So right now, let's get down to it. Jimmy.
Oh, wait a minute. We didn't run we've got some new products at the Shaker Garment Company shop. Go check it out. We've organized it. We've made it easier to sort through because some people have gone to the site and we're having a hard time understanding what is male and what's female and what's new and what's not. Gabe and I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, and it should be easier to sort. And there's some new products that are aboard, and always check because on a weekly basis, I'm likely to throw something new on. So don't miss it.
Show your Shaker pride, your spirit. The Shaker Garment Company. Yes. Thought you knew.
Shaker, not square. Shaker, but not square.
There you go.
That joke.
No, that's a tagline.
There you go.
It is. I was trying to tell him that. He thought it was corny. Shaker would not square.
No, I stand corrected. Okay, I stand corrected. Right here on stage. I stand corrected.
I used to work in advertising. I know what sounds good.
There you go. Hey, all right, Eric, you got it. So,
yeah, all
right. Here we are. So, Jimmy,
yes, sir.
Is your family? I'm sorry. Has your family always? Are you several generations of Shaker in, or when did your family come to Shaker?
My grandfather is from Shaker. Came to Shaker, bought a house in Shaker. So, would that make me? Okay. Let's see, third generation.
Third generation, right on.
Yeah.
Do you recall where he lived or where the house was?
They lived on Lomond. Can't remember.
Okay.
Probably. So we were. Should have asked my brother this. So the second house I lived at was Lomond and Linfield, corner of Lomond and Linfield.
Oh, you were right across. The Rapid Stop.
Well, a few blocks down, but they were closer to Lomond School, so they were probably, I want to say, 5 blocks farther, closer to Lomond.
Okay.
But they were also on Lomond.
Mm-hmm.
So they were in the Lomond district.
How close to the school? Because I lived 3 houses from the school. 177. You don't remember? Okay.
I can't remember the names. I used to know the names of the streets. I memorized them when I was a little boy.
So did your grandfather and like either your father or mother go to Shaker schools as well?
My dad went to Shaker. Okay. My mom went to Heights.
Wow, that's like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. And then my mom went to Michigan and my dad went to Ohio State. Boo. That was a contentious marriage.
Yeah, I'm saying. Last November.
They didn't meet till later.
House divided.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every November. Weekend. Oh, that's cool, man.
My grandmother went to Ohio State.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my mom grew up in Cleveland Heights, at near Coventry.
Okay. And I don't know, like, do you have brothers and sisters? Because I'm not aware of that. If you have brothers and sisters. I
do. I have an older brother, class of 81.
Okay.
And a younger brother, class of 86.
86. Okay.
So what's your brother's name? Because my sister graduated in 80 or 81. So
Steve Moss.
Steve Moss. Okay.
Wait a minute.
I was known as Steve's brother.
Did he have curly hair at that time? Like,
he did not. He had black hair.
Okay.
All of which has long gone.
Okay. Sounds vaguely familiar. And then who's your other brother, class of 86?
David.
Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. It's like my 3 sons, in the house.
Yeah.
So that would make you the middle child.
Yes. I'm the middle.
Okay.
So your elementary school years, describe those.
I went to Sussex. I was thinking about this, listening to Denny. I was just laughing listening to him. I just laughed through his whole early childhood. Can you give me a more specific question than tell us about your elementary school?
Tell me about your childhood. This is a quick session. No, tell me about what were you into? Who were your buddies? Who did you hang around? What were some favorite childhood memories? What do you most remember about the neighborhood? So,
I was thinking about that. When you first asked me to come on the show, I was like, I don't know. My life wasn't that interesting. I can't remember a lot of it. But I was thinking about that. I remember just keeping to myself a lot and being kind of, I like playing in the dirt and looking at the bugs and just sitting watching life go by. My brother would always try to organize these like football games and playing basketball in the backyard and stuff like that. But I was never really interested in competitive sports or anything like that. My brother was always playing sports. I was relatively good at it. I just wasn't that interested in it. I was more of like a daydreamer and a watcher and kind of, off to my own devices somewhere. But I guess I was the original slacker, just sitting around.
Yeah. Son of a very creative person, though.
I don't know what I was. The dog was my best friend. The dog and I would sit and just kind of watch what was going on. I'd take the dog on a lot of walks.
How'd you spend your days? Did you draw? You're an introvert. I mean, what did you do back then that would lead you to what you're doing now?
Do you have a beep button for the cuss words?
No, this is
no.
We're R
radio free. Radio
I,
free.
Yeah. I wish I knew. I think at some point I started reading books. At some point, I certainly watched a lot of television. Yeah. I get a kick out of those things on the internet where they show you TV ads from the 70s or clips from TV shows. Like there's not one thing that I don't recognize. So I must have watched a lot of television.
Yeah. Hey, do you know about this woman? I forget her last name, Miriam something. She died back in, I think, like 2012, but she had this collection of like over 71,000 VHSs that were set to long form play. So she had recorded hours and hours of television, the news, the commercials, and she would have like up to about maybe like 8 VCRs going at one time in her house.
That's right.
Yeah, but she had a librarian background, so it was like she took it upon herself, like, I need to document this stuff because all this stuff is getting erased. So right. I'll find her complete name because I think the Internet Museum is in the process of almost finished digitizing all of her stuff. So if you ever wanted to go down memory lane,
yeah,
you could check out her amazing legacy.
Yeah. Eventually, I started getting into music, not playing music, but listening to music. And I spent a lot of time listening to the radio. I started recording cassettes of live concerts. There was always Sunday nights they would have these concerts on
MTV.
No, on the radio.
Oh, on the radio.
Yeah, like
King Biscuit Flower Hour. King Biscuit
exactly.
Flower Hour.
King Biscuit Flower Hour, and MMS and M105 used to have these concerts, and I would tape different concerts, and I built this collection of cassettes of different live concerts. And so it's like every Sunday night, if my family wanted to do something, if they wanted to go over to my grandparents for dinner or something, it's like, I can't, I got to be home to record, blah, 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 whatever. Blue Oyster Cult is on the radio this week.
So do you have any of those cassettes? Did you save any of them?
I have a couple, but I've had a fire over the years. I had a theft from my car, once upon a time, and so very, very little of that is around. I don't have a cassette player anymore.
Yeah, they're coming out with the Walkmans. They've reissued, like different companies are putting out Walkmans now because there seems to be a resurgent back into cassette playing. So anyway,
nice. So I had solitary kind of pleasures. For a while I was friends with this guy across the street, Jimmy Duckworth, who I don't think ended up going to Shaker. He may have eventually moved away. But like the people around, so across the street was Steve Smith.
Okay, yeah.
Steve Smith lived across the street.
Right.
2 doors down was Keith and Daryl Farrell. I don't know if you knew them.
Yeah. Keith, rest in peace.
Yeah. Duckworth.
I remember Duckworth. I remember the name because it was such a, unique name, but I don't remember that.
He and I got into a lot of trouble. He and I started smoking cigarettes together when we were probably still in elementary school.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, Eric. Borden Arrows was up at the corner of Litchfield and Chagrin.
Yeah, that brick grocery store. Yeah,
they would sell you cigarettes if you had a note from your parents.
What?
Oh, I had a note from my parents.
So that's where the graphic design started, right? When you started forging.
Sure. Well, you could also just tell them that it was for your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And after you did that a few times, they would just sell it to you.
Yeah.
So I was an early smoker. Duckworth and I, jeez. Bobby Nolan lived next door to Steve Smith, and he was kind of like my I would say my best friend going through Sussex and then into junior high school up to Byron. I guess we'd ride bikes, we'd hang out, we'd go up to Van Aken. I was tripping on Denny Young was talking about that, going up to Van Aken, and he was talking about manners. I don't remember we were doing much. We would go up to Sussex while we were still in school, but certainly after we graduated, when we were at Byron, we were going up to Sussex and hanging out, and there was just all kinds of weird stuff that we did just to kill time, to get out of the house.
Did you ever hang out at the Somerset Inn? A lot of us would go on our bicycles because they had a game room there. And
I did not. I had a job. I always, not always, but often had a job. I first started delivering the Cleveland Press when I was very young as a substitute for my brother. Yeah. And then I had a serious job delivering the Plain Dealer to the Oliver House, which was a big apartment building on Warrensville. And
it's still there. It's still there. Yeah.
I mean, I think I had like 70. I had a lot of papers to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like at 6 o'clock in the morning, you had to have all the papers done. And so I would get up before the sun every morning and head on over to the Oliver House. And this was, I mean, I must have been 11, 12 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Every morning doing this in the middle of winter. And on Sundays, I would hire my younger brother to help me. And he was.
It's amazing the responsibility we had then. I remember I got a press route 76, 77, and that was the big winter. And I got sick, and I didn't have a backup. And the guy tried to force me out there to deliver the paper.
Yeah.
That was the
and you're
end.
What, 10 years old, 11 years old.
Exactly. And you remember trying to collect from people, and they would not answer the doorbell, and they would force you to still deliver it, and you would lose money off of these people.
Well, and it was, you didn't have to pay for the paper. The press you didn't have to pay for. It was optional.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yes.
Wow, I never knew that.
Because I thought the Sun Press was free. Because there was a Sun. We had so many papers. It was a Sun Press that was free.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah, Sun Press.
Yeah, maybe it was the Cleveland Press was you had to pay for it. But I do remember that people did not want to talk to you when you came to collect.
Yeah. Or go hide. Yeah. Did you? I would like to see one of those bags. You remember those bags, those white bags with the orange lettering, the Plain Dealer, and those would be nice to have.
Yeah.
Does the Plain Dealer still exist? Does the Plain Dealer still exist? It does.
Yes. It's only in digital form, right? And Sundays.
No. It's like 3 days a week.
Oh, really? Okay.
In print form. My mom still gets it.
You should bring those bags back. We should
merch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleveland Press merch.
Yeah.
Tote bags. Oh.
Tote bags. Yes.
I don't know if we can do the Cleveland Press. We can't do the Plain Dealer. Yeah, we can do it. Definitely.
You could do the press. You might have to tweak the logo a little bit.
Yeah. Same thing with Huff Bakery.
What is it called? Archie's Huff Bakery.
Right.
Yeah. Did you? What's just trying? Oh, remember those old shaker signs? The shaker, the wood ones that,
like you said, entering Shaker Heights,
cut in thirds. We need a picture of that. We need to find that. I would like to reproduce that in some sort of form. So we'll be in the vicinity. We'll go to the Historical Society. But if anyone has a picture of that, and thanks for all the Shaker Boys League stuff, you can get closer ups or of those pictures so that I can see the logo a little bit better. I can reproduce it. and you guys can relive your Shaker Boys memories.
So speaking of Shaker Boys League, I did play 1 year in Shaker Boys League. We were the Bad News Bears. We were awful. We were junior B.
Wait, I think I was on that team, the Bears.
I don't know if you were on my team, but we were pretty awful.
Did you have this? She was one of the few girls to play, Colette Bazaz, on your
Does
team?
not ring a bell.
Okay, so maybe we were on different times.
Yeah, I was playing in right field, and I got hit in the face with a ball instead of catching it. It was really the Bad News Bears. That ended my baseball career 1 year in junior B.
Yeah,
but my brother was on the team, the Shaker High School baseball team for a couple of years. He was eventually he was the head of the umpires for the Little League, and so I did a couple of years as an umpire.
I did that too. I forgot about. Did you do that game?
Yeah, I did umpires. Yeah,
$11 a game. It was pretty good dough back then.
Yeah,
you may have been working for my brother then.
That's why it sounded vaguely familiar.
And that was great. I loved that.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and I got to tell the parents to shut up.
Yes, you're out. Little kids out.
The kids were great. The parents were just a nightmare.
Yeah, that was like proto parents up to what we see today. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
Well, my mom wouldn't let me play until I was 12 because she thought it was too much stress and pressure. And then the Bad News Bears actually came out, and we went to see that, and she could not they could never make that movie again, ever. All the racism from Tanner. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's a memory we haven't brought up. Do you remember Shaker Recreation, where they'd have those people from Shaker Recreation with the walkie-talkies? Brian Sullivan's dad was one of the guys. He used to play catch with me there. But they would have a shed. They'd open up the shed and throw all the balls out and make sure everyone wasn't injured after. You remember those folks?
Yeah, and they used to have I don't know what they were called, but like playground coordinators. There's somebody at Sussex who would just hang out there and have equipment for the kids. We would go up to Shaker, and we'd ride our bikes up to Sussex, and there would be somebody there with basketball and a kickball, and we would play foursquare with a giant ball, and they'd have baseball equipment if you wanted to play. And
I wonder what the history of that is. Was that for us latchkey kids, so that we had one universal babysitter, or what was that?
It was so we wouldn't. It was so we wouldn't stay home smoking cigarettes.
I guess. Yeah. Well,
that kind of worked.
So much for that. Yeah. For some of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did I
remember going up to Sussex. I had it must have been, there was one summer I remember going up there, and I played foursquare it was like every late afternoon, early evening for hours. I love playing, foursquare, where you got four people in the square, and it was so much fun. And I remember I injured myself. I fell on my bicycle, and I have this huge scar on my leg to this day from my foursquare injury.
Oh, wow. Damn.
But it was so much fun. We were very competitive in our foursquare. I'm surprised that ESPN doesn't have foursquare.
Probably in the early years they had that. When they had Australian rules football, they probably had foursquare.
I remember that.
Tetherball.
That.
Well, now they have poker, which I guess is a sport.
You know what killed me about the safety of those playgrounds? They had an eagle's perch at Lomond right beneath the asphalt. And I remember at least the rescue squad coming at least once or twice. Someone busted their head. And then they didn't do anything. Like years later, they built a new playground with wood chips and all that. but no one ever had any concern for any of that. And the sliding board would rip you apart and heat up like a skillet in the summer, you know?
Yeah. They had that triangle, that bright silver triangle slide at Sussex, which was, I mean, it was ridiculous. Not only would it cut you, but it was really like it was a sun reflector. It would burn you.
Yeah.
It was the most ridiculous thing.
You guys had that rectangular jungle gym too, didn't you? It squares. That was dangerous as shit. The pipes and stuff, and it went up like 10 feet in the air.
That's why we're not snowflakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, at Ludlow, we didn't have much there because it was initially all concrete, and then, to your point, Eric, they had the wood chips. But we had like the Swiss cheese castle, and that was everything was hard concrete. You scraped your leg, or you bumped your head, or you burnt yourself on the slide.
We had swings that would go all the way around too.
Right. And that's what some of the older kids used to do. They used to get the swing caught up on the bar
with metal chains that held the swings in place.
And you would pinch yourself sometimes.
Yes, it was awesome.
So
what is childhood without getting hurt?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, the scars. I mean, that's life.
That's right. You got to learn how to get hurt and bounce back. I mean, you got to be resilient.
Yes.
Otherwise, I mean, as Eric said, I'm a college professor, and
Wait a minute. Before you go there, I remember you as the iconic 80s teenager. Give me the description of the Jimmy Moss of the 80s. What were you listening to? What were you wearing? Who were you hanging out with? I know you were smoking cigarettes, probably. Yeah. Like Friday.
Okay. Pick a day. I spent a lot of time at Coventry, so I could be wearing anything. When I was, I think I started in junior high school. I was subscribing to magazines. And so I was reading rock and roll magazines, and I was reading about these fashions from Britain. And I'm exposed to a lot of this kind of stuff. And I'm also at the same time, God, I'm looking back, I'm thinking, what a weird kid. I'm also reading GQ. I had a subscription to GQ in junior high school. And I had a subscription to Architectural Digest.
Wow.
Right? And so I'm thinking, looking back, I think, well, that makes sense. I was interested in design. I was really into music. My whole room was covered with things that I pulled out of like Circus magazine and Rolling Stone magazine. So I've got like all of this visual stuff around me. But I'm also like fascinated by fashion and style. And so, one day I'm like, I could be like Mr. It's the 80s, so I could be like Mr. Preppy, I guess what eventually became Abercrombie and Fitch kind of looking guy. Mm-hmm. I'll shop at Higbee's or Saks Fifth Avenue, and the next day I'm at I wasn't shopping at Goodwill, but like a thrift shop.
Yeah, and that was popular.
I've got my ripped punk rock look. So it really depends on what mood I'm in. I was very much interested in the Doors at the time, and then the Sex Pistols. But I'm also listening to everything that I listened to everything. I don't know that they were calling it hip hop at the time, but I'm really interested in that. I remember, I guess it was about 78, 79, Prince hits the scene.
Yeah.
And I fall in love with Prince. both Prince's music, but also I'm like attracted to him, and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's everything in the whole spectrum. I hadn't gotten into jazz yet. That happens when I go away to college, but I go from punk rock to Zeppelin to the music from the 60s to just about anything I could think of. And so my style is all my look is all over the place. My attitude is all over the place. My personality.
Who influenced you to go to art school, and where did that come from? I mean, you're talking about being introverted, and now it's exploding. What influences? I mean, your MTV's huge. That's the cultural driver back then. So, and all the music and all the
sort of
the androgyny and all that other stuff, the modeling and I understand because I had the same influences. But
yeah,
I'm wondering why you didn't pick up an instrument. I'm wondering why I didn't, and then I'm wondering why, where this art thing came from and how you got involved in plays and everything. I wish I had done that. I wish I'd gotten. I wish I'd picked up.
You're right. I was involved. So in high school, my older brother was in the theater. He was on the baseball team. He started doing acting. And so he was involved with theater. And he was an actor, and he was in these plays at Shaker. And he did some other plays that weren't at Shaker. And so he was interested in acting. And eventually he went to college and eventually to New York and did a little acting. Sort of went down that path for a while. And I didn't really have any interest in that, but I was recruited by James Thornton, the theater director at Shaker. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Because I really wasn't interested. But I guess I can't remember exactly how it started, but I tried out for something and I got involved and found that I enjoyed it and just stuck with it. And so I found kind of a group of weirdos that I could relate to, who were also not particularly interested in competitive sports, but were kind of arty weirdos that didn't belong anywhere else. And so I did that with them. And so most of my time in high school was spent with the theater people, and we spent a ton of time rehearsing. We had these, they were called workouts, where we're doing a lot of physical activity. It's like a dancer's training. And we were in incredible shape. We used to joke that we wanted to challenge the wrestling team. We would do one of their workouts and they would do one of our workouts, and that we could have easily done one of their workouts and they could never do one of ours. Right. We used to do these workshops with visiting professional dance troupes, and they'd come in and work with us, and it was great. It was a great experience. It definitely kept me out of more trouble than I would have been in had I not been involved with that. And so I did that throughout high school, but I was also taking art classes at the same time. And so I'm surprised that I didn't go to college to study theater, because that's what I was really focused on when I was in high school. I was reading theater. I read a ton of plays. I was just really into it. And I was, I took art classes. I was on the third floor all the time, but I wasn't that serious about it.
How did your parents support you? Did your family support you or dissuade you from pursuing acting, or how did you fall into art?
My mom was always very supportive. She had a lot of artistic friends. My grandmother was a kind of an amateur painter. I have a great aunt who was who co-owned a jazz club in Cleveland, and so there were always artistic people around in the family. My dad, by this time, my dad had moved to New York and gotten remarried. So he was kind of in the picture, kind of not in the picture. He was around, but when it came time to go to college, I had some decisions to make. But my mom was always very supportive. You know, I didn't ask, but if I did, she was, you know, whatever made me happy she was supportive of.
Nice.
I mean, it was the late 70s, early 80s. They were preoccupied with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good thing.
So when did you decide to go to art school? Did Hoffman push you, or what was your medium? What did you participate in the really did it? In the Scholastic Art Awards, or what happened? Lead us from there.
So I actually won an award for a project I did in his class, an Ohio something award down in Columbus. And I took a class at the Art Institute to help build my portfolio one summer, which was amazing. He refused to write me a recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Why? What happened?
I don't know. He just refused to do it. He could be a little mercurial, a little, I don't know what.
Was it because it wasn't to Parsons? Is that why? Because you wanted to go to another school besides Parsons?
I wanted to go to 3 schools: Parsons, RISD, and Kansas City Art Institute. And the 4th school was Kent State. Those were the 4 schools that I was applying to.
Okay.
And I was leaning towards graphic design, but you didn't have to choose at the time.
Okay.
Okay.
But he didn't give me a reason. He just refused to do it. And he was the only art teacher that I had in high school. And so I thought that was going to be a problem. Turns out it wasn't.
Yeah.
I ended up going to art school to study design. I wanted to go to Parsons really badly.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with my dad, who thought that RISD Rhode Island School of Design would be a better choice.
Yeah.
And I was pretty upset with him at the time, but I think he was right. Don't tell him.
And why did he suggest?
Father knows best.
Why was it the expense, or what? Why did he want you to go to RISD versus Parsons?
He thought it was a better fit. He thought it would be a better fit for me.
And why?
Well, that was his reason. He thought it would be a better fit for me. That was it was about the conversation, and I was a hothead back then. So,
it was 80s New York. You would have lost your mind up there.
Well,
it was so much going on up there.
You'd be CBGBs and not doing any work.
Sean Brannigan and Ty Bassett went to Parsons, and I went to RISD.
Yeah.
And I went to visit Sean and Ty, and I am glad that I was in Rhode Island.
Okay.
I probably would be dead if I had not gone to Providence. And I had the time. I had freshman year. I had the time of my life.
Yeah.
My goodness. But I also had an unbelievable education and learned a lot. And it changed me, and it set me on a path that I'm still on today.
Okay.
So after Parsons, was that sufficient? Did you do?
RISD.
I'm sorry.
RISD.
How dare you?
I know.
just dismiss RISD altogether.
Altogether. No, it's a real school. I know. No, much respect to RISD. So after that 4 years at RISD, did you do a jump into the industry, or did you feel like you had to go to grad school for further? What was that process?
Yeah. I went from Rhode Island. So a lot of people when they're getting ready to graduate school, they're all freaked out. They're like, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" And I went through some of that, but I was thinking, where do I want to live? Where do I want to go?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, a lot of people are going to go to New York. A lot of people are going to go to Boston. I was in Providence. And I thought, well, do I want to go to New York? Maybe. Do I want to go to Boston? Maybe. I was kind of sick of New England. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful and it's really interesting. People are really smart and talented, but I'd had enough of that.
Right.
And so I thought, well, where do I want to go? Where do I want to live? And I thought maybe Chicago, maybe Miami, maybe Paris, maybe California, specifically San Francisco. And that's kind of where my head was at.
Okay.
I don't know why Paris. I just.
Here's a question that makes me think back then. I didn't see a computer until my 5th year, it was 5 years mandatory at the Cleveland Institute of Art. So when did you get to touch a computer? We were doing press type and hand layout of I had a graphics minor. What the hell was that like compared to what it's like now and what you're teaching? Yeah, I would like to talk about that.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
That's an excellent question. I had no interest in computers. My younger brother was the nerd, the computer guy who spent all his time. Him and his friend Aaron were I don't know, hacking into the Defense Department or something when they were at Shaker.
Oh.
No,
they were probably just changing people's grades at the high school.
I don't know what they were. But was that part of the curriculum? Was that part of the curriculum? I mean, learning to do graphics on the computer, because that was before the GUI,
Remember, we graduated high school in 1984, which is the year the Macintosh was released.
That's right. Yeah.
And that changed the entire world of graphic design. Slowly. Mm-hmm. The laser printer didn't come out until I don't remember what year, but it wasn't in 84. It was later. So the image writer printer, if you remember that printer, the dot matrix printer was around.
Yeah.
But I remember sophomore year when I took a class in it was essentially hand lettering. The professor said, next week I want everyone to have taken the introductory class to computers at the computer center. And my head exploded. I'm like, what the fuck? No. Not what I want to do. But I had no choice. So, on one hand, we're drawing and painting letters by hand, basically a type design class.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, the other part of the class, we're designing very low resolution typefaces on a matrix that's, it's like 12 by 12 pixels, right?
Yeah. Wow.
It's the same mindset.
Yeah.
Because we're communicating what a letter is. And so that was sophomore year. And by the time I graduated, mine was the only senior project that was designed for a screen. Everybody else was doing printed projects.
Right,
so I took to it pretty quickly. I was interested in that. And I did all kinds of weird stuff that some faculty thought was really a waste of my time and didn't understand what I was trying to do. And other faculty supported and encouraged that.
Right.
And then instead of going to Paris or Miami or Chicago, I ran away to San Francisco, which in 1988 was a really exciting place where new things were being invented and new companies and new industries were happening.
Yeah.
And so I got involved with whatever that was. I went out there without my portfolio because it was still in transit, and I had a place to stay, a couch to stay on for a month, and no job, but I had rent to pay.
Yeah.
And so I found a job. I found a job teaching Macintosh to people.
What?
And,
wow.
And it was in a place, it was called an electronic design studio.
Okay.
And they knew that I had a degree in design, but they were particularly interested in my ability to teach, right?
State of the art. You remember that term? You were state of the art.
There you go.
And I made a very good living doing that. And I did, and so I was, it was kind of a drop-in design studio. Drop in, we'll design anything from, your entire brand. We'll do your resume, or we'll redesign your entire company. So it was like a hybrid. We, at the time, we designed what we believe is the first broadcast television commercial entirely designed on a Macintosh computer, because they didn't have any off-the-shelf software at the time.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of figure it all out. The two founders of the company had a background in trade shows and video production.
Okay.
So I was the only graphic designer on staff.
So thank God you decided to pick up the computer and drop the calligraphy pen at some point, because that made you way more marketable, especially in Silicon Valley before it was Silicon Valley.
No, not really. There were people like me all around there, because they had design schools there too. But it was, it was a beast. It was feed the beast. We need more and more and more people, and so people were being drawn to, just like they have every couple of years been drawn to the Bay Area. Yeah. Right now they're not, but give it a few years and there's something new that's going to be happening there. So it was exciting. So it was a really exciting time to be there.
So what is dramatically different in the way that you approach teaching design to your students? Well, I don't know how much teaching you're doing, but what do you see the biggest changes of a student going through school and just the graphic design business? Because desktop publishing started to eliminate a lot of this stuff. And now we see Fiverr, you can get a logo for practically nothing, for $8, or you could use a program, or now with AI, what are you going to do with that? Tell me about your curriculum and what you're thinking about compared to what you learned by hand. And then where's this medium going? Where's this profession going? And tell us about AI. What do you think about that?
Can we have part 2 of the show? I can answer that question.
We might have to split it. Yeah.
Because that's a lot of questions right there. And I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Just choose A, B, or C, whichever one you feel best with.
They do entire conferences on that topic.
Well, leave AI around. What are you telling your students these days? How are you interacting with them? How are you encouraging them?
Well, so I'm going to answer this. It's not.
Don't get in trouble now. Don't get in trouble.
No. I'm not going to get in any trouble. So what I want to say is that I've been teaching for 20 some odd years, and the answer. The beginning of this answer is a lot of what I start with is listening to what students are interested in and what their goals are. And that doesn't mean that I abdicate the role of teaching, but students are very, very different, and I can't teach in the same manner that I did 20 years ago, because people are different than they were 20 years ago. And yes, the content is also different that we're teaching.
How so are they different?
In so many different ways. Now this is where I get in trouble. You're doing this to get me in trouble, aren't you?
No. I'm just asking because I see a lot of change. I taught at RIT. Okay.
Yep.
So excellent school.
Excellent school.
Yeah. So I taught at RIT. I was an adjunct professor. And my approach did not work because I thought, okay, if you want to get a job, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do exactly how they do it in the field. They taught me a lot from their perspective and how they approached things and how they looked at things. But I also saw a lot of gaps too, because I saw them as like, I'm an industrial designer. So being an industrial designer, the idea of it was cooler than actually putting the work in to compete. So now I had to find a book to find out all the industrial design firms and send them letters and make, slides and cover letters. I mean, that was a lot of work. I couldn't type. I had a computer, but I had to find a word processor. I had to buy one. It just evolved. And it was like running your own business. But now they've got so much competition from everywhere. And they can pull out and make videos and all kinds of stuff. So it's the work, the tools are professional, but I'm not sure the ideas are as professional as the tools are. So there was a big gap there. And also they just thought it was cool to be in. Some people couldn't even draw. I had to create workarounds so that they could catch up in their senior year so that they could enable themselves to find a way to create things. I know CAD is a huge thing in design school. So a lot of people weren't into that, or I got a different kind of, I was a new teacher. So I got a lot of like underachievers come into my class. And a lot of them complained about it and they didn't get it. So enough about me. Those are things that I saw. So that's why I'm asking. I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but there was definitely, like, schools are passing people because they're getting paid to give you a design degree. Back then,
well,
if you didn't do the work, you didn't get the degree.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that are going on here. I think students come in with an expectation that isn't necessarily realistic, and I think schools are doing the best that they can given their situations. I teach at a public university. We do not have portfolio entrance requirement, so anybody who signs up can take classes. So it's not a private art college. The vast majority of students studying art and design in America are studying at public universities. And so there's this misunderstanding that most people who are studying art and design are at private art schools. They're simply not. That's just a small fraction of the people that are studying art and design. So, and the majority of the students that I work with are first generation in their families to go to college. And most of them are coming to college not particularly well prepared for college,
right?
Let alone to study art or design. And so their needs are to get a college degree and support their families. So the curriculum that they're seeking is very much in line with that goal. Now, I have opinions on what we can do to serve them, but I also have some thoughts on art and design education in general. But students in general and my students, it comes from my experience and also my perception on what's happening in the world and in America and all of that. But I think that as a whole, there's a lack of understanding, and it's based in communication. I think the students aren't listening, and the programs and the faculty and the schools are not listening and understanding each other. In our case, I don't think we're doing a particularly good job at identifying who we are and what we do. And I have told my faculty this, but I think most schools are in the same situation. They don't know what kind of program they are. When I was in school, most design programs were very, very similar. They offered very similar classes, very similar curriculum, because design was very uniform. Certainly graphic design was. But the profession has had an explosion, a prismatic explosion. There are hundreds of different pathways in the profession now.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to study design, shouldn't there be a lot of different pathways to study design?
Yeah.
And what are they? And how clearly articulated are they? I don't think that's the case in design education. I don't think they're clearly articulated. I don't think students understand what it is that they're studying, why it is they're studying, and what it is they're going to get prepared for as they go out. I also don't think industry understands their responsibility. We used to do these portfolio days every year where we would gather 40 or 50 employers and professionals and have students show their work. And at the end of it, I would gather the employers and ask them, so what did you see? What are your thoughts on what you saw? And everybody would say, you know, I wished I was coming in hoping to see this, XYZ, PDQ, and instead I saw ABC 1, 2, 3. And at the end of this conversation, I would usually say something like, you know, we can, and it wasn't just us, it was all the different programs in the area. And I would say, we can design a program to satisfy all your needs, but that's a 10-year program.
All right. I'm going to scale it.
Because these are employers and organizations from all over, they all have different needs.
Right.
And no program is going to be able to produce graduates that's going to fit all of their needs. They need to do training after they get a new graduate. And they hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
They need to do internships.
Yeah.
They need to do more of the education, not just assume that a graduate coming out of an undergraduate program is ready to do exactly what they need.
Yeah, the design field. Yeah, most people do internships and they're trained before they graduate, so they're placed before they even graduate and have a job.
And they need to do externships after they graduate as well.
Yeah,
because there's so much specificity going on. You know, I as you mentioned, I spent a lot of time in the Philippines. The minimum wage in the most expensive part of the Philippines, in the capital region, is $15 a day.
What?
They have lots of people, and some of them are very well educated and very well trained, and so they can throw a lot of people at a project, and they're going to work day in. This is why there's so many teleservice call centers there, right? And they speak very good English.
Yeah.
They can throw a lot of people at a project for not a lot of money. And so if it's a technical skill, they're gonna design you the logo for $8.
And that's the scary thing, because unfortunately India has tons of engineers.
That's
and we were talking to India and Chinese. America's looking for the next cottage industry until they turned America into the cottage industry, because they've industrialized all China. We used to go to Guangzhou, and now they have EPA regulations. So we go to the next cottage industry and the next cottage industry. The last bastion of cottage industry is going to be here, because we are competing with other countries and I don't want to go. Yeah.
Well, I used to talk to my students about design is not an object business. We're not in the business of making things. We're in the business of building relationships over time.
Yes.
It's a service, but it is a relationship. And the more we understand and work with our clients to build that relationship, the better we are going to be in the long run, because most designers and most design firms have long-term, mutually satisfying relationships.
Right.
But then came COVID, and then came this understanding of way of working long distances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
now, do I think it's the best way to maintain a relationship? No. But it is possible to have a long-term relationship with somebody that makes $15 a day that is on the other side of the world.
Right. I call it psychotic capitalism. I coined that term a couple of years back. I mean, our society, capitalistic society, is all about profit over people, and it's never enough. Never enough. I mean, case in point, yesterday or before the weekend, Tesla, Elon Musk. Oh, you're going to get a $45 billion CEO payout or severance pay or something. He's getting the shareholders voted on giving him $45 billion. This man already has globs of billions already. And it's just like, huh? Really? And we got all this shit going on, with our infrastructure and everything else. And
it's an interesting conundrum to be in.
Yeah.
When fewer and fewer have a larger percentage of the capital in the world and in our country, the idea of late stage capitalism. I don't know where it goes.
Sustainable. It's not sustainable.
I don't know what the end is.
Chaos, Jimmy.
Well, here's a phrase I coined: solitary refinement during COVID. During the,
I like that.
See, this is why the two of you are good together.
Or like Voltron.
Oh, we're making an Oreo sandwich right now, so if you
there you go.
See that visually.
I'm very comfortable. I like it. I feel very safe here.
Yes,
it's a safe space.
So, I think people are really understanding what their worth is. What I like about this generation, they're not going to give you more than you're giving them back. They're not going to feel any loyalty towards you, because I think, and I'm a product of this, they've seen their parents be so loyal and get nothing out of it. I've been laid off like 2 or 3 times, scrambling to work for these Fortune 500 companies and designing things, getting $1 for a patent where they're making millions of dollars off of. And I'm battling for my job for the next year. It's like, going out for the Dallas Cowboys and trying to make sure that I can produce more or get better so that they don't bring in somebody cheaper to take my job.
Yeah.
And after a while, you get sick. You got to move your family. You got to do this and do that, unless you're going to sell yourself and do other things, that I wasn't willing to do. So, yeah, in a way, basically, that's what you are. You're I've seen some shit, but
tricking for a man.
I hope, we talk about the Great Reset, that Gabe is always talking about the Great Reset. I hope people are realizing that top echelon that's controlling all of the money and our wages and giving us shit for pay and giving us non-nutritious meals and giving us stressful lives. I'm like, what is it worth at that point? Design is nice and design is great, but it's like jazz almost. Only a few really appreciate it, and it's so disposable, especially with the internet and everything. And look at music. Look how sucky that shit is now, I mean, but every generation says that their kids' music sucks, but this music really fucking sucks,
You gotta dig for it.
You got to find it. It's out there, but you got to dig for it.
I'm constantly telling students, get your own music because they're listening to my music.
Yeah. And you respect them for that.
This music is from the 80s, man. Get your own music.
Yeah.
And these people have one foot in the grave. I'm going to see them because it might be their last concert.
Yeah, that was like that for me to see Kraftwerk last month in Columbus, Ohio. I mean, came out for the night. But that was, I wish I could have saw it out there in LA where they had the residency, but that was one of those things, to Eric's point. It's like, yeah, even though this ticket is $200, I got to go see him.
Yeah.
I watched an 80-year-old John Anderson of Yes last week.
Nice.
And he's even amazed. But that's when they allowed anyone, before record companies had formulas. I was listening to Thomas Dolby. He said in 1980, when the rec execs were telling him what his formula was for the next album, that's when he got out. Because America, it's like American TV is something that the Europeans did that we later adapt 10 years later, like The Office. Every show, there's no any originality here. There's no risks being taken. So to be a designer or an artist, you've got to forge your own way, and you've got to be arrogant, more arrogant than anything. You have to just tell everybody to go to hell, and you have to just be as big of a salesman as you are of an artist, which is also a problem for us introverts.
I am the best artist.
I did work for several years for major advertising agencies in San Francisco and then down here in LA before I came into academia. And I found it pretty easy after all those years watching and paying attention, and me and the dog watching life go by, to just kind of feed it back to America after watching all that television as a kid, to just spew it back out. I mean, if you spend your life, if I spent my life kind of watching and studying and seeing how humans are, to just put it back out there and give it a little twist, it's pretty easy to get people to persuade, right? And that's what a designer is. The designer is somebody who's trying to communicate, often to communicate for the purpose of understanding or motivating for a purpose, sometimes for a commercial purpose, sometimes for greater good. And in my case, for a period of time, I was working in advertising. So I was selling something, whether it was a brand identity or whether it was an actual product or service. It was interesting work, but after a while I got really bored. And so then I went into that, took a gigantic pay cut and went into academia, where I could encourage people to focus on their staying close to what they believed in. Because one of my clients was Taco Bell, and I'd never eaten at Taco Bell. That's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I didn't feel great about that. But more importantly, when we would go over to as we call them, the client, it just didn't feel good, the environment over there. And I just, after a while, I felt like, okay, I'm taking all this money for this interesting job. The work was fun, but I didn't believe in it, right? Mm-hmm. And I believed in helping people. I believed in helping people.
Service
and everything
above self.
Everything I was doing in teaching, people were soaking up like a sponge, and it was helping them and helping their families. And I was encouraging them to follow their values, not to just do what I had just been doing because it wasn't rewarding, but to center themselves and to be aware of how their powers are going to be used. Use your powers for good, right?
Right.
Because other people were going to use their powers. We're going to pay them to do work, like you were talking about, Eric, and then they would lay them off, right? And so use your power to help your family and your community, and always be aware that you have the ability to influence people. And so that felt good for me, and it still feels good. You know, there's a very expensive art school not far from where I live here that I used to drive by on my way to work, and I never had much well, I wasn't going to mention them, but I never had much interest in teaching there. Because where I teach, I can make a big difference. I can make a difference in individual people's lives and in communities' lives. And I'm not sure I could make much difference in anybody's life at the other school.
And I've even heard that with the community colleges. I worked with someone at Whirlpool that said his best experience was at a design-based community college that got him into, another school in Illinois. But that's where he learned, because he had more forward thinkers, people that were actually in the industry, and that, it was more of a one-on-one type of, the numbers were smaller so that they could actually influence. And these people were more receptive too, I think. That you run into a lot of well-to-do people, let's say, that, I don't know, privileged kids that don't listen as much.
Yeah, I've had to rethink a lot of the junk I used to say. In the last few years, I've had to rethink a lot. I used to say, well, I used to say very casually, I'm a socialist, and I believe in I don't believe that design is just for the wealthy and blah 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 blah, and that's why I'm teaching
democratization of design. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I used to say all that kind of crazy stuff, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not true, but there's something to be said for the value and power of design, and in our society, and that having voice through design and being able to influence people through design is something that I truly believe is important. And my master's thesis was about the role of a designer in a movement for social change, and the value of having that voice. And so to be where I have been and to teach where I have been teaching in a state university system is really important to me, because that does align with my values. I went to private schools and I studied in private schools, but I grew up in Shaker and I went to a public school, and I come from a relatively good background, but I identify with my students. And that's important.
Yeah. It's all about, ideally, each one teach one, giving back. I always say, like, between our sunrise and sunset, that dash should be fat with meaning. However, one should spend their life, and with a certain amount of service. Identify with what you're saying, like in my own end, when I had the opportunity to teach at San Quentin my last year of grad school at Berkeley, and that, besides the military, was probably my most incredibly rewarding experience. The student inmates, and giving them a different view, because most of the inmates were Black and brown, and so I was like an anomaly to some of them. And but the fact of, like, okay, this is hopefully enriching somebody's life, teaching basic journalism, giving them critical skills, and it's important. It's important. Service above self. Like, I've said this on previous episodes. When I aspire to become the velvet iron fist dictator of the United States of America, mandatory service across infrastructure, environment, and medical, and certainly military, will be mandatory for the youth to understand what it means to be of service. So,
Of course, we should have mandatory service. Most civilized societies do have mandatory service.
Right.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why we don't have mandatory service.
Yeah, we live in a caste society, social econ caste.
Well,
society.
The people that go into the service do it in order to get health care and pay for their education,
and also a climb up the ladder, the social ladder. They may not define it as much as that now, but obviously during a certain generation, I know, like, for my dad, who was career Air Force, it was a way out of Akron, Ohio, and then hopefully climbing this American mythology of social climbing to get to a certain place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was going through your head at the time, but
me,
yeah.
My head. Oh, I'll keep it real. I mean, I had hit a wall in 2007. I was living in a unheated floor of a loft space in Newark, New Jersey. Work had dried up, and I was just like, I'm tapped out. I need a reset. And I'd always had a fascination with the military. Growing up in the Ludlow area, I had this naive thing of I wanted to be in the Army. I wanted to be a soldier, but not understanding the implications of that.
The Army, huh?
Meant. Yeah.
You chose the Army.
Yeah. So,
well, at least you didn't choose the Marines.
Well, I did actually, but I couldn't get in. And this was like in the early 20s because of my peanut allergy. And this was 1988, so I didn't get into the Marines. But yeah, I had hit a wall, and it was almost like, well, fuck, I'll just join the Army. I waited out. Oh, okay, they'll pay off a portion of my student loan debt. And then there was that, kind of naive romanticism about, oh, you're going to be like Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket. You're going to cover the war. And yeah, I did. And then some. But yeah, I wouldn't trade that experience or, being of service. I mean, the war was questionable. There's, that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, a certain amount of service above self is needed in this country because everything is fast food. Everything is, I'm entitled to this. I'm entitled to this Chipotle, this big gulp from 7-Eleven.
So, fine. Eric, you asked me about one of the differences about young people today. There is a sense of entitlement. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to believe it because a lot.
And we're from Shaker Heights, the entitlement capital of the world, I would think. But go ahead. I just wanted.
Yeah. Well, it used to be. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah.
But I don't like using that term because my faculty have often used that term, and what they're talking about is something else, a lack of understanding, a lack of communication. But there is a lot of entitlement. And students expect something without deserving it, without being
I paid for it, therefore give it to me, and the way that I want it.
Well, but they're not paying for it is the point.
Yeah.
They haven't paid for it, and they haven't worked for it.
Yeah.
And so there's an expectation without an understanding or having worked for it. And that comes from a societal belief, but also from their experience. But Gabe, you said something interesting about service, and I think the other really important benefit to our society, if we did have a mandatory national service, the broad kind that you're talking about, not just military service, but national service, is that it would give all of us a unifying experience as a country.
Yes.
And we don't have that.
Yes, exactly.
We used to have that when we only had 3 television channels.
Yeah.
But we don't have that anymore.
No, we
don't.
are
completely scattered and so we need a unifying experience, and countries that have that unifying experience are united. They're more united than we are.
And the only unifying experiences that we have that bring the countries together are catastrophes and wars and pandemics. and only for a short time.
And the Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics.
And I'm not sure I agree with that, because the last pandemic really split us.
Yeah,
that's very true. Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's rule out pandemic. Yeah, that's right. You're right about that.
and war split us. I mean, I'm not sure those. So getting to national service might split us, but I think having national service would bring us together.
Yeah. Well, we need an external threat. And
we have plenty of those.
But no, we need something that affects us globally. Like if we need like a real Godzilla or Mothra,
alien attack
or aliens, yeah, to really
bring us together, so we have a common enemy.
Yeah,
don't look up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we need Klaatu to say, in the galaxy, your planet is shit. So now we're giving you a warning.
Yeah, but we don't pay attention to warning.
No. Mother Nature will hit the reset button.
I'm not watching that channel. I'm going to change the channel.
Yeah. And we are like a reactive society. It's always the immediate hindsight, 2020 vision after some shit has gone down. And then it's like, oh, but we saw this coming. Yeah, I know. But, we always point to this like apathy of shoulda, coulda, mighta. Well, here we are next time.
We're still debating whether the world is flat or round, whether we actually walked on the moon. I mean,
Kyrie. All right, Kyrie.
I mean, come on. Nothing is nailed into the ground. Everything is loose and fluid. Nothing is. So where are we, Jimmy, compared to where we were growing up? Huh? There are no facts. Exactly.
No.
There are no facts.
You know what a lie is? Is nothing more than a simulated experience. So something to think about.
Ponder that.
Yes.
Let's hope we never lose our sense of humor.
No, we gotta have it. We gotta have it. If we lose it, I know, man. We're about to hit in the Mariana Trench. Yeah, the Vizgals and the where are the other Vandals? They're at the gates. The barbarians are at the gates.
Let them in.
Yeah.
How aware? How aware are you? How much? How should I say this? In your students, how aware are they? And do you think they have a chance to correct this? Because obviously we're at the last drive, and we're not going to be around to see hopefully I'm not going to be around to see the aftermath.
Which this are you talking about?
I'm talking about something that's imminent and very close.
So I've been in California 35 years.
Wow.
And California has a very different point of view than other places in America and in the world. So what is this? Can you get a little more specific, Eric?
You know what I'm getting at.
Are you asking me, is there hope for the world?
Is there hope in the youth? Are they aware enough to know what's going on? Because I'm not finding that. They're low. I ask people, they don't even know who's running for president. They don't know civics. They don't know how the political system works.
The people
they're not paying attention. They're distracted from everything. So
the
are you seeing that at the academic level? I mean, at the high academic level, do you think we have a chance? Are they going to save us, or are we?
But the people that do know who's running are not happy about it. So does it really matter that they don't know who's running?
Well, I mean, at least do they know history to know what the possible outcome can be if they don't pay attention? if they're not active, if they're not participating in the system?
I would say probably. I think they're aware enough. I think I have enough faith in them.
Okay.
I don't always agree with them, but I think they're engaged enough. Yeah. Look, there is a lack of critical thought.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. And referencing context to things.
But that started, in the late 70s, when school boards started being taken over by the religious right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was a long-term project. And
yes.
It has been a problem. And it has not gone away. And those people now are older than us and running state legislatures and sitting on the Supreme Court. And so, and people who are more progressive, I don't even know what that term means anymore, but people who are logical are not able to organize themselves for long-term projects to redirect and root that out of our society. The rationalists. There is no rationalist movement.
No.
And so is there hope for the democracy project? Not unless the rationalists can organize and motivate the same way that the religionists have. I don't see that happening, and I certainly don't see it happening amongst young people.
Yeah, I mean,
so us as designers, you've heard of the term design thinking, which Stanford owns. It's about empathic thinking. It's about understanding people, at least from a business sense, so that you can bring them along and have them think rational thoughts and be able to unite them. Where are we with that? Most design schools and art schools are full of liberal thinkers. Is that what's happening where you are and in your neck of the woods? And is that why you think that there may be a chance? Is that what you're seeing?
No. No.
Yeah, and that's a frightening thing.
What is interesting to me, though, is last year at our university convocation, which is the kickoff to the school year where all the faculty gather for the first day in the fall, the president of the academic senate talked all about design thinking. And he's not a designer. I don't even know what his academic field is, but he was talking all about this term, and he said to the entire faculty of the university, you are all design thinkers, you are all problem solvers. And he went through all these elements of what makes a design thinker. And I thought, what the fuck is going on here? But it was fascinating. It was fascinating. Well, the term was co-opted by business people and by business, and the only people writing about design thinking are business people. Designers don't talk about it; they just do it.
They just do it naturally. I'm like, oh, what is this? Oh, what I've been doing all my life.
Right.
I'm observing and. Yeah,
that's right.
Jimmy, we're gonna bring you on in the future because we're gonna definitely do some shows in November. Sort of like have like
let's have a political roundtable.
Yes, exactly.
We really should. I mean, we should.
No, we're gonna do it. We're gonna have political. We're gonna bring some folks on.
We could do left, right, and center, and I'll play all sides.
Yeah. And I'll just play the puppet master, and incite, COINTEL, incite.
So there's two questions. There's two questions. I don't know how long have we been on. This has been a great
time. Man, I can't believe we're at an hour and a half already. It doesn't even seem like it. But that's always what happens when we get into these great conversations that they find they're like a meandering river, but it's all connected. It's all part of it. So
how did our high school become a arts high? Do you is it just the people that are deciding to come on, or how has it become this institution of artistic endeavors? How has it become that? Do you have an answer to that?
Well,
It's a cool thing.
We had music and art.
theater.
Well, at the elementary level, we had music and art.
Yeah.
And at the junior high school level, we had music and art. And at the high school level, we had music and art and theater. And I'm not sure that's true at a lot of schools, public schools.
Nope.
Okay.
It really depends on the school district and the monies.
And from my very earliest memories, they took us to Severance to hear music, and they took us to the Museum of Art, which is one of the best in the world. And so we grew up in a city that has a rich culture, and from the very earliest days, I'm singing, and I'm making things with clay, and it is, I assume, I don't know if it still is, but it certainly was a community that through its school district invested in supporting all of the arts.
And that's why your property taxes are high there in Shaker, because you're supporting the arts, and which is a good thing.
Let's have one of those future conversations about my idea about how you can have a balanced approach to school vouchers that doesn't penalize public schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what's happening now. The vouchers are taking all the money out of the public schools.
Right.
And the parochial schools and the other charter schools are getting double money. They're getting the public money, but they're also getting private money that doesn't come to the public schools.
And it goes back to what you said a few sentences ago. I got to find this piece that I did at Berkeley, but it was like the blueprint. Lee Atwater, Reagan, and a few other people behind the scenes, after the Vietnam and Nixon and stuff, they had this vision agenda that they were laying the foundation for. And now it's become its own mutated monster. And it's very frightening. Very frightening.
You should get Ken Danford on. He's done a lot of.
Ken Danford, we'll make note of that.
Have you read any of his recent writing?
No.
He's a pretty interesting dude on education. He writes about education.
Ken Danford.
Yeah, I want to have a lot of people on from SCORE, the original. I want Zach Green. I want Emily Hooper. I want Ken Danford. All those people. Yeah, I've reached out. I've tried. If you've got some levers on your side, I would love to bring. I would love to have a SCORE thing.
He's got a blog actually, because he's an education consultant, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll definitely holler at him. No, it's good. We're just trying to.
We don't want to holler at you, Ken, in case he, feels a little.
Oh, there's the phone number. Look at that.
Yeah. So we're not going to holler at you, Ken.
We're going to reach out to you. Semantic.
Reach out. Yes. Make sure that he understands we're not going to holler at him.
I'm just making it plain.
The vernacular isn't always interpreted
right
in the same way to same people.
Why are you hollering at people? Oh, yeah. Well, hey, man, I look forward to seeing you in person in
a couple more weeks. 3 weeks?
Yeah.
A month.
Yeah, about a month. Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I got to sign up. I got to send out a thing for a meeting on the 19th. It's just to everybody to tap in. What do you think?
And I wanna spread the word about the tour of the high school.
Yes, Saturday the 10th.
because
the 20th.
I'm not sure people know about that. And people who aren't going to be coming to the other events, this is a free event. They can tour the high school.
Yeah. I'm big on that because
some people are like, I can't afford that.
Right. Well, the bench has been placed in the courtyard, and so for me, that's even more so for people to come and
have a moment.
Yeah, have a moment. Because shit, who knows? 10 years, all of us might be up in the new country. And yeah. So
that's right.
Yeah, but we'll Eric and I will amplify, particularly the Saturday, the high school thing. We'll amplify that. So if you're listening now, whoever's logged in, I see 2 people. Thank you so much.
It's probably probably my family.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Saturday, July 20th, 10 a.m. High school. Come take a tour. Walk down memory lane. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Take a tour. Release yourself. Free your mind, and your ass will follow. Well, the music's coming on, and we had a great time with our brethren, Jimmy Moss, Sussex in the house, Byron, Shaker, RISD. No, Rhode Island. Is that one?
Yeah, RISD is short for Rhode Island School of Design.
Yeah. So this has been the Shaker Heights. Experiences may vary. Broadcasting live from the Linfield Rapid Stop. We're having some air conditioning problems. We got to talk to the RTA about that, in my mind. If you're hungry, go to your fine grocer and buy. If you're hungry for pizza, buy Newman's Own. Okay? Support the hometown. Support the hometown kid. Who knew that this kid from Brighton Road would reach the heights of pop culture, movies, race cars, pizza, and salad dressing? Newman's Own. Find it in your fine grocer everywhere. Heinen's, Dave's, Safeway, Giant, and wherever else fine frozen pizza is sold.
The unofficial official sponsor of the Shaker Heights.
Yes.
Experiences may vary.
The unofficial official. So there you have it. Jimmy, it was a pleasure. Safe travels to and from the Philippines and all over, because you're the international zone coaster. Time zones, everything. Make sure you collect yourself, because other parts get left behind in the time zones. I'm getting a little too deep right now.
Right. Happy Father's Day, everyone.
Happy Pappy Day.
Father's Day, everybody.
Yes, happy
Thanks,
Pappy
guys.
Day.
This has been fun.
Yes. In other words, Father's Day instead of Pappy. It's colloquial. Anyway. All right.
And Baby Mama Daddy Day. Happy Baby Mama Daddy Day.
There you go. There you go. Be a father to your child. Yes. All right. Peace and love. Stay hydrated. Stay safe. Until next time. Jimmy, thank you. This will be, we'll send you a link to the RSS feed. So it'll be, on podcast formats and everything. And listen, lastly,
okay, go ahead.
Lastly, get your Shaker merch. Okay? Shaker Garment Company. Represent. All right.
You can be Shaker, but don't be square.
All right. Peace.
All right, this song can't loop again.